What's good, YouTube podcast world? What's up, family? You already know the name, Pays and Plays podcast here. We're gonna be giving you my best bets for college football week 2. Last week we broke even 2-2. Like I said, I had a North Carolina last minute, so I was 3-2. Overall, we're talking 4-2 so far, so not bad. A couple few picks. So let's get right into it though. First one, let's go to 12 o'clock. We got Georgia Tech versus Syracuse. I'm taking Georgia Tech on the money line. Last time I had it was about minus 145, so not bad value. Listen, and I seen a little bit of that Syracuse game against Ohio, and boy, are there some concerns. Let's start with them and why I'm fading Syracuse. Kyle McCord, good quarterback, okay, I guess, but you threw an interception and then a couple, three, four other plays should have been a turnover that he almost committed as well. And offensive line is a little bit weary too, so there's a little bit of mismatch with that. And the defense on the other side, they gave up 255 rushing yards to Ohio, who they did cover the plus 17 if you were wondering. So you giving up 255 yards to a MAC school, that's definitely a red flag. Looking at it with Georgia Tech on the other hand, you got Haynes, he's been a beast. Listen, he has been dominating the run game. We've seen what Georgia Tech has been doing since he's been running the rock. And listen, we see those blowouts against Georgia State, and we saw that good game against Florida State. So we know that they can definitely grind and pound. And with Haynes King, the quarterback, less turnovers he's been committing so far, which has been the biggest, best thing for this team. And they got three returning receivers. Malik Rutherford, listen, that guy is a beast. Small little 5'9" guy, but he can work the slot and make wonders happen. I don't think it should be a hard sweat for Georgia Tech money line against Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. Next game, we got South Carolina versus Kentucky, which Kentucky I was aware was supposed to be a sleeper in the SEC. However, I am taking South Carolina plus 10. Yes, plus 10. I just think 10 points is a lot of points in a SEC versus SEC matchup. 10 points is just a lot. Now, don't get it wrong, though. Sellers struggled a little bit against Old Dominion, but we know Old Dominion, those Sun Belt teams, they play very competitive between the ACC and the SEC team. So they usually do kind of hang around. But we need a lot of Sellers and Sanders in the RPO play. We definitely need Sanders to have a better run game because they're going to need to slow this game down against Kentucky. We know what Kentucky has on offense. They got some weapons. So they just really need to slow the ball down a little bit, grind it out. And listen, they got Nicholas Harbor, who's a track guy. I mean, guy is huge, like a 6'4", 6'5", like another DK Metcalf type player. He needs to step up. They got a couple players that I think they can make it at least hard for Kentucky. Not saying that Kentucky will lose, but give me South Carolina plus 10. And I'm relying on that defense too, who only gave up 108 yards rushing. So I expect this team to step up after last week's. Next game, we got Colorado versus Nebraska. I got the over 58.5 total points. I just see tons of points scored on both sides. Listen, yes, Nebraska defense is good, but Shador Sanders has experience with playing against this type of defense and still putting up a decent amount of points on this defense. Now, when you look at the Nebraska side, we see what Dylan Raiola, what he's been able to do. And listen, Colorado struggled against North Dakota State. I think the defense, we all seen that. So if Nebraska scores about at least 30, 35 points, I see the Colorado scoring about almost the same amount of points. If you was to ask me plus 7 on Colorado, I would lean towards Colorado plus 7. I just don't trust that defense enough to back them, but I will back the over 58.5 on that one. And lastly, for the last game, we have the nightcap game, the 10 o'clock game on the East Coast. We have Oregon versus Boise State. I am taking the over 62 points. Points will be scored, okay? Don't overreact because what we saw from Oregon only scoring, what, 28 points last week. ignore that. But we need to pay attention to what happened with Boise State, right? How Boise State, my man's the running back has 6 touchdowns, but then they gave up 35 points to Georgia Southern. So even though it was a 42-35 game, I see points because if Oregon can drop an easy 50 burger on anybody head, and as long as Boise State score about 20, 24, 30 points a game, right? They should be able to cover this one. So that concludes my best bets for week 2, college football. Like, comment, subscribe. Who you like this week? Anybody let me know. Let's get this money.